Let's talk about Tennessee, Alabama first. I mean, that was a really good football game. Tennessee went ahead. Alabama scored first to go up 7-0. Tennessee scored 2 touchdowns, went up 14-7. Alabama tied it, then went ahead 21-14. Tennessee hung in that ball game, like I said, up to about 12 minutes left in the game. And then, of course, just ran out of gas because they just don't have the athletes to compete with Alabama. But we talked about this last week, Joe. Tennessee has been in every game they've played. And their offense is one of the best in the country. They run a very fast-paced offense. They're a very efficient offense. Their defense lacks a little bit only because they don't have the talent across the board. But Tennessee looks pretty good right now. I mean, I think.
I think they're a better team than their record.
Right.
And I think they've been improving each game too.
Right.
But yeah, they don't have the talent, and they don't have necessarily the caliber of a coach as these top teams do.
Right. I agree with that. And Nathan and I were talking last night. I mean, the Tennessee fans need to embrace this coach and embrace what they're trying to do, because we were talking last night about, okay, let's say Tennessee finishes 6-6 this year, which they probably will. I mean, I think they'll lose to Georgia. I think they'll lose Kentucky. We don't know, but they're going to either be 6-6 or 7-5. They're going to go to a bowl game. Now, next year, they open their season with Ball State, at Pittsburgh, and Akron. Now, they're going to beat Ball State and Akron. They may or may not beat Pitt, but let's say they beat Pitt or lose to Pitt. Doesn't matter. 3-0, 2-1. Let's say that then they play Florida, and then they play Alabama. So if they lose those games, I can see right now the Tennessee fan base starting to say, oh, here we go again. This is not the right coach, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it's just the Tennessee fan base. I think you have a lot of teams that do the same thing, right? Especially starved for seasons that they, and yesteryear.
Right.
But, you got to give him a few years. And if he can't produce and can't improve each year, 1 year after the other, then there is something wrong with the coach.
I think Lane Kiffin kind of ruined or damaged Tennessee fans too with the way he left. I think they have a poor recent history of coaches, I think, which doesn't help.
Also, Tennessee has a really poor history on losing some quality players that they're recruiting.
Right.
Yeah.
I was watching something the other day on how many decent quarterbacks they've let slip through slip through their fingers, and other players as well. So, they got to stop the hemorrhaging. I mean, they need to make sure they're getting the best talent out of Tennessee.
Right.
Right. That's
right. No, I agree with that. But I see this coach as kind of a stepping stone. And what I mean by that is this guy has proven that he's been able to create an offense that can score points. Okay. So that's a given. Now, if he can recruit some guys and get that defense back to where it needs to be, let's say they go 6-6 this year, 7-5 next year. Maybe his third year they get to 8-4. Maybe his fourth year they go back to 7-5, and maybe his fifth year they go to 9-3. Okay, I think then you've got the program to a point where maybe this guy goes on to another job, and now the program has been built up to the point where they can attract a top name coach
exactly
to take it the next step further.
Exactly.
What do you think, Nathan?
I think if Tennessee continues on this path that he has him on, I agree that they could attract a big name coach, but maybe they don't want to after. Maybe if they continue on this path, then maybe he becomes a big name coach.
Could be, yeah.
And maybe he leaves for Alabama if Saban retires or something.
Could be, yeah. Could be, yeah.
I do think they could attract Tennessee's always going to have the ability, I think, to attract a top coach because it's a storied program.
Right.
It has a lot of history, rich tradition. I think.
Well, listen, everything you just said is true. And they have tremendous facilities. They have a tremendous fan base. But here's the problem for Tennessee right now. The reason why I don't think they can attract a big name coach is their fans have run so many coaches out of town. And it's not so much the fans as it is their big donors, the guys that are putting lots of money into that program. Okay. You basically ran Pruitt out, which they say he did some illegal things. Maybe did, maybe didn't. Doesn't matter. Okay. They've run 3 or 4 coaches. So if you're a big name coach, do you want to go to Tennessee and have one bad year and all of a sudden have the people
Fire.
down on. Yeah, I mean, that's why they have to get some stability, 4, 5, 6 years with a coach, and then you can start attracting some other names. But you can't go through coaches like you change underwear and expect to attract big names. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
I agree. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I think they definitely need to give this guy time, no matter what happens next season.
Yeah,
All right, let's go
I
ahead.
was just gonna make a good joke on this, but you may want to edit it out.
Go
Yeah, Ralph was just saying, you can't go through coaches like you're changing underwear. I was in there because if you don't leave the underwear on, you'll never get a winning streak.
Oh boy, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a very good way to say it. If you don't leave the underwear on for a while, you can never get a winning streak. I like that.